empowering the business sector with nature's toolbox, exploring the potential of natural climate solutions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just a disclaimer, just as you heard, that this webinar is being recorded. So I am Felicia Santos, and with me is my co-host, Macy Payuno, and we are your hosts for today. And to go over the house rules, I'll send it over to Macy. Thank you.
Before anything else, here are the housekeeping reminders. As mentioned, this webinar will be recorded and we will be sharing this recording to all the attendees who are here today. If you wish to receive a copy of the materials used in this webinar, including a certificate of to your full name and company name. If you're not speaking, kindly mute your microphone to avoid noise during the webinar, and we will give you time for your questions and concerns during our open forum later on. You may also raise your hand during the open forum to address your question to any of our panel speakers.
Thank you so much, Macy. And I'm currently battling a cough right now, so you might hear a cough drop rolling around in my mouth. Please don't mind that. So special thanks to the BSD member companies here today. And just a reminder that the membership webinar is a special benefit given to BSD members. And just to recap, that these quarterly webinars are brought to you as part of your membership program benefits. And last membership webinar was held last year on October 27, and the topic was transitioning to a sustainable future, navigating TNFD and TCFD frameworks. And so we would specifically like to thank the following companies that have pre-registered and are present today. So thank you, Ampersand Design, Energy Development Corporation, Bank of the Philippine Islands or BPI, Philippine National Bank or PNB, Philippine First Holdings or FPH, Maynilad Water, Aboitiz Equity Ventures, Converge ICT, Philex Mining Corporation, and the Wholesale, and Aboitiz Power. If I haven't mentioned your company, please let me know through the chat box below. Thank you. We also appreciate your time and effort to attend this virtual event in spite of your busy schedule. It's Friday and it's almost time to sign off. So I'm sure we're all looking forward to the weekend. So thank you so much for spending your time here with us at our membership webinar. So for next slide, please. And so our agenda for today, after the webinar proper, firstly, our introduction of the webinar will be guided by Sir R.V. Perez, our sustainability consultant. And then after the webinar proper, we will have a panel discussion and open forum. So please save all your questions for this portion. And then also a reminder not to leave after the closing remarks so that we can take a picture with everyone. Next slide, please. And before Sir RV's introduction, I would like to say a few words for opening the webinar. And so once again, good afternoon to all our esteemed participants joining us today. It's with great pleasure that I welcome you to our online webinar focusing on the pivotal topic of natural climate solutions, or NCS, and their potential transformative impact on Filipino businesses. So throughout our session, we'll be delving into the dynamic landscape of NCS adoption across various sectors, exploring how these solutions are not only mitigating climate change, but also fostering sustainable development initiatives. So today, we have the privilege of hearing from a distinguished panel of speakers who will provide us with valuable insights into the significance of NCS for global climate and nature targets, as well as avenues for further engagement. So the webinar will focus on the burgeoning trend of harnessing NCS within Filipino businesses across diverse sectors, highlighting their pivotal role in mitigating climate change and also fostering sustainable development. So in leveraging the country's rich biodiversity and resources, the webinar will delve into collaborative efforts between government agencies, nonprofits, and local communities to drive impactful NTS projects such as reforestation and also mangrove reforestation. The event will feature insights from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, Natural Climate Solutions Alliance, and also a very decorated local ESG professional, and also offering a comprehensive overview of NCS, including its significance for global climate and nature targets, and also developing robust strategies for integrating NCS into their organizational frameworks. So without further ado, let's embark on this journey together and uncover the transformative potential of NCS for Philippines and beyond. And so, introducing our webinar topic, we have BSD Sustainability Management Systems Program Consultant, Raul R.V. Perez. So, giving the floor to you, Sir R.V.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to this webinar, as mentioned by Phil. Welcome to this webinar entitled Empowering the Business Sector with Nature's Toolbox. So as the title says, nature has a lot of tools which business can make use of to help solve the critical issue of climate change facing us today. So already we can feel its effect through this very extreme hot summer we're experiencing this year here in the Philippines, and also see the unusual extreme weather such as torrential rainfall currently happening in China and recently in Dubai. So natural climate solutions, or what we call NCS, play a crucial role in mitigating climate change by harnessing the power of nature to sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So they are also involved in the restoration and protection of ecosystems. So by protecting forests, grasslands, wetlands, and other ecosystems, we can enhance their capacity to sequester carbon, thus helping to mitigate climate change. In fact, it may even be more cost-effective than traditional carbon mitigation measures currently being thought of now, such as building carbon capture and storage facilities. So natural ecosystems also provide essential services such as flood control, water filtration, and soil retention. So overall, natural climate solutions offer a holistic and cost-effective approach to addressing climate change while also promoting biodiversity conservation, sustainable development, and resilience to climate impacts. So integrating NCS into business strategy and climate policy frameworks of governments is essential for maximizing their potential in achieving long-term climate goals. If you all remember, last December 2022, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was adopted. It is a historic agreement committing almost 200 countries to halt and reverse nature loss by 2030. The goal of this framework is really to halt biodiversity loss and restore ecosystems by setting targets and actions to be achieved by the international community. So our speakers today will be discussing what are natural climate solutions and how business can be involved either by investing directly in such natural climate solution projects or by purchasing carbon credits generated from such projects. They will also be sharing their challenges and experiences in adopting natural climate solutions in practice. So thank you again for participating in this webinar, and we hope to know more about natural climate solutions after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir R.V. And with that in mind, allow me to formally welcome our panelists for today's discussion. So we've invited 3 experts to share their thoughts and experiences from their respective industries. And in the upcoming panel discussion, we will delve into the dynamic landscape of natural climate solutions, adoption among international contexts and Filipino businesses, spanning diverse industries and sectors. Our esteemed panelists will shed light on the pivotal role of NCS in mitigating climate change while fostering sustainable development initiatives across the globe and in the Philippines. So join us as we delve into the transformative potential of NCS and empower businesses with actionable strategies to integrate sustainability into their organizational framework. So to begin, let me introduce our first speaker. So Yannicka Gordon is an associate in the Natural Climate Solutions Alliance, an initiative of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, or WBCSD. She has more than 6 years of experience working in the conservation sector, specializing in nature-based solutions for climate change. She is currently responsible for promoting awareness and understanding among corporates of the role that nature-based solutions can play alongside decarbonization strategies through the NCS Procurement Hub, an online platform that helps businesses navigate the procurement process for nature-based carbon credits. She graduated from the University of Edinburgh with a master's in global environment and climate change law in 2020 and currently lives in Amsterdam. She is a talented stakeholder manager and a published author, writing on issues related to the institutional arrangements between states to promote coherent legal actions on climate change-related matters. Let us all welcome our first speaker, Yannicka Gordon.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Phil, for that great introduction. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay. Here we go. So, all right. Yes, so thanks for having me, everybody. It's really good to be here and, really excited to talk about the potential of natural climate solutions and how it can help the business sector more generally, but also in the Philippines. So just quickly, as I know that this introduction was already given, but I work for the NCS Alliance, or the Natural Climate Solutions Alliance. We are a part of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and we were established by the World Economic Forum with the aim basically to catalyze demand for high quality nature-based or NCS voluntary carbon credits. So we have more than 80 businesses, NGOs, and what we call solution providers in the voluntary carbon market. And our aim is basically to support businesses on their journey to procuring high quality credits. And we do this by raising awareness, so participating in webinars such as this, and sharing knowledge. So in this section, I'm basically going to talk about how climate and nature are interlinked and how we can use natural climate solutions to reach our climate targets and other societal targets. So as you heard from Sir Arvi in the beginning, we're in a bit of a crisis point around the world at the moment. With climate, we know we're not on track to stay at 1.5 degrees. In fact, it's been estimated that we will probably hit 2 to 2.6 degrees in the next few years. With nature, wildlife biodiversity is suffering. We have almost 70% of wildlife has been declined since the 1970s. And with equity, the gap between the rich and the poor is growing wider. Between the top 10% and the bottom 50%, this gap has almost doubled in the last 4 decades. How this impacts businesses is it's quite significant, and it can be quite direct. So, for example, with climate change, there's all of these tangible risks to assets, to supply chains, to operations, and this can be due to extreme weather events like wildfires or rising sea levels. And it's been estimated that this can have between 7 to 10% of GDP impact. And then for nature, obviously, this can lead to a huge disruption of ecosystem services, which can threaten the delivery of critical products and services and continuity. And that's been estimated to have around 15% of global GDP impacted. And this can be even more if you're in a sector that has a high dependence on nature. And then finally, with rising inequality comes social discord, which can lead to communities being impacted, which can then have jeopardize business performance. and that's been estimated to be around 9% impact to global GDP. Sorry, I'm going to continue with the bad news for a second, but I promise you it does get more positive after this. So currently we're at a place where the land sector is releasing around 12.5 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions every year. But some smart people at Conservation International estimated that we need the land sector to reach net zero by 2030. It has to become a 5 gigaton carbon sink by 2040 and a 10 gigaton carbon sink by 2050 if we want to keep temperatures at 1.5 degrees. And there's also a massive funding gap. So right now, biodiversity and climate funding is not where it needs to be if we want to reach our global goals. These graphs here show the current funding given to climate and the current funding given to biodiversity, and then the gap that we need in order to reach our goals by 2030. So that's a 4.6 trillion US dollar gap for climate and a 0.7 trillion US dollar gap for biodiversity. So this is essentially where businesses come in, right? There's an imperative for companies to act beyond their value chain. So this is what we're talking about when we say beyond value chain actions. Actions or investments that go outside the traditional value chain that contribute to reaching goals on climate, on nature, and on equity. But how do we get there, essentially? What actions do we have to take? We recommend that businesses follow a conservation hierarchy. So number one, prioritizing protection and conservation measures. So focusing on projects that reduce emissions that are generated by the conversion of natural ecosystems. And then this is, corresponds with the urgency to avoid further loss of irrecoverable carbon stocks that would help us avoid, reach those critical tipping points. Next is sustainable management. So second in the list of priorities should be prioritizing, projects and programs that minimize or reduce emissions and can generate carbon pools. And then finally, restoration. So as the final measure on the mitigation hierarchy is pursue restoration and focus on projects that remove or restore emissions through restoration. So I know we're talking a lot about NCS, this is where they come in, but maybe I should explain a little bit more about what they actually are. So when we say NCS or natural climate solutions, we're talking about nature-based solutions that address climate change. So they mitigate climate change through actions that protect against nature loss, improve nature management, and restore degraded native cover. So the mitigation potential of natural climate solutions is huge. For protecting against loss, this could mitigate up to 4 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions annually. For working lands, it's even higher, around 8 gigatons annually. And for restoration, around 1.1 gigatons of CO2 mitigation contribution annually by 2030. But we are talking about high quality natural climate solutions. So what do we mean when we say high quality? Essentially, this means they have to deliver on 3 key areas. So obviously climate, they need to work to increase and enhance carbon storage. They have to consider carbon performance, additionality, permanence, leakage, things like that. But they also have to consider nature. So high quality NCS projects need to increase ecosystem resilience, direct finance to endangered species. They need to have synergies with corporate nature positive targets or enhance project security through, benefits provided by ecosystem services. And then finally, people. So high quality NCS projects must be considerate of society, particularly local communities and indigenous peoples. So that means involving them from the beginning, compensating them from their work early in the process. And this is sort of a win-win, right? Because any projects that generate people value tend to be more effective and ensure respect for local communities' land rights and their traditions. So when we talk about NCS, we're typically talking about some of the examples that Phil mentioned in the beginning. We have, mangrove restoration. We have what's called REDD+, which is reducing emissions through deforestation and degradation, afforestation, reforestation, blue carbon, things like that. These are the more sort of typical categories of project-based NCS, but Engineer Mackey will also talk about more unique and I would say local types of natural climate solutions. So that's quite interesting as well. But how do we link NCS to carbon credits? So as we know, I said before, businesses need to go beyond net zero and address, well, first of all, address their own value chain emissions. But this also must be complemented by actions beyond their value chain. And we need to do this if we really want to move the needle and accelerate our shared environmental and societal goals. We need this collective action. We need private finance to be unlocked at scale. So this is the role that businesses can play to help close that really, really significant funding gap. And the VCM, or the voluntary carbon market, is just a tool that can help close the gap that we need in order to solve the crisis by 2030. So the voluntary carbon market is a decentralized market where private entities such as businesses, but also individuals, can purchase and sell carbon credits that represent, a certified greenhouse gas emission removal or reduction. When we talk about a credit, this is essentially a tradable financial instrument that is issued by a carbon crediting program. So a carbon credit represents 1 ton of greenhouse gas emissions reduced or removed from the atmosphere. And that's calculated as the difference in emissions from a baseline scenario to a project scenario. And credits can be generated not just through nature-based solutions, but also through technical solutions, although we're not really going to focus on that in this presentation at all. So just a quick overview of what the voluntary carbon market looked like in 2023. Obviously, if you read the news, you would have seen that there were some challenges posed for the voluntary carbon market. However, it was also marked by, record-breaking issuance levels and rising prices. But that comes with increased scrutiny on integrity and on transparency. Obviously, buyers introduced more concerns about integrity, about claims, about offsetting claims, about the ambiguity that came from the Paris Agreement's Article 6, the fact that it wasn't completely settled. However, despite uncertainties, the market did show resilience. And, indicating that it was consolidated rather than, having major corrections. For 2024, we're expecting, market consolidation, and, Rafi will talk about that in a second. And there's also been a lot of progress on defining high integrity carbon credits, guidance on claims, and, clarity on the role of carbon credits in the net zero transition. So, let me just quickly give you an understanding of the role that credits can play in a corporate net zero strategy. So, like I said, buying carbon credits can provide this beyond value chain mitigation opportunity. So this can be before achieving net zero by counterbalancing annual unabated emissions in the short and the long term. It can also be closing the gap between ambition and action if the desired emissions reductions weren't achieved for whatever reason. And then it can also be used to neutralize remaining emissions that are still there after you've achieved net zero. And if in really high ambition pathways, they can also be used to counterbalance historic emissions. So by purchasing carbon credits on the voluntary carbon market, it can really support these voluntary mitigation actions and address these interconnected challenges of climate, of biodiversity, and of people. I think I'm running out of time, so I will just quickly mention the NCS Procurement Hub, which I only had 10 minutes to cover a lot of information. So the Procurement Hub is this new tool. It's an online community platform that provides a lot more detail about all of the topics that will be mentioned in this presentation. It simplifies the process of, procurement of natural climate solutions and helps corporates to develop their own procurement strategy. And we're doing a 24-hour NCS summit on the 14th of May, where we're going to be, diving into a lot more detail about these topics. So I'll stop there and hand it over to my colleague Rafi from VCMI, who will introduce the next section of the presentation. Over to you, Rafi.
Thank you so much, Yannicka, and thank you so much for our hosts for having me today. Really pleased to be here. My name is Raffaella Infanti. I lead stakeholder engagement at VCMI. So today I'm going to talk through the work of VCMI and how that fits within this context of voluntary carbon markets and the work that we are doing also with other organizations working in the sector to provide confidence and trust in voluntary carbon markets for companies to engage more actively. We can go on to the next slide. Thank you so much. So this is really to set a bit the context. And as Yannicka mentioned already, we know that voluntary carbon markets offer businesses a great opportunity to be part of the solution and direct those resources to where they are needed the most, to amazing projects in nature that we will shortly hear more about, and to make sure that we do scale and we get the pace that we need to really fight the climate crisis that we are all in. There are many estimates on how much voluntary carbon markets could unlock. But from one of the average estimates, we know that they could potentially unlock $50 billion by 2030 and really accelerate global net zero. There's a huge potential in fantastic projects that are being developed through nature climate solutions. However, we know that the voluntary carbon market has to have integrity in order to work. We heard about scrutiny in the past few years. There is a hesitance from companies at times to invest in the market. So we are really here to make sure that we do build integrity in the market so that we provide that trust and confidence that will unlock the market and really build the skill that is needed and give companies the confidence to invest in a market that is working, that is delivering real impact in the ground, and that is having an impact not only on climate, but also on people through the so many benefits that entails. In order to do that, we collaborate with many other organizations, and in the whole decarbonization pathway, as I'm sure you know, there are many essential standard setters and organizations that provide a framework for companies to invest with confidence. And so I just wanted to briefly mention that we are working towards this end-to-end integrity framework with other organizations in the voluntary carbon market ecosystem, such as, for example, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, CDP, the Science Based Targets Initiative, and also ICVCM. But now to go into VCMI on the next slide, a brief introduction on who we are and what we do. We are a global nonprofit that empowers governments, companies, and other non-state actors to make a real impact on climate action. We were called into existence. We were formed by the president of COP26 in the UK and backed by governments, civil society, and private sector actors around the world. And our vision is really to make sure that we see a world that is on track to net zero emissions by mid-century, and that we achieve that through a just transition that enhances equality and sustainable development. And how do we do that? We provide guidance to engage in voluntary carbon markets with confidence. I would skip on the next slide. Thank you. Last year, we delivered a claims code of practice to incentivize climate leadership. What the claims code of practice does is to provide companies a way to make claims that recognize the commitment to going above and beyond their science-aligned emissions reductions so that they can accelerate global net zero. As Yannicka said, we want to put we know that we have to put as a key priority decarbonization up front, but we want to ensure that there is additional contribution from companies to go above and beyond and really contribute to climate action through the use of carbon credits. And so we established the clear guidelines for companies to do that and be able to make credible claims that emphasize transparency and accountability, and so that it provides the benefits to climate people, the projects, and the company investing in carbon credits as well. The claims code is really the go-to guidance for companies on credible claims. As I mentioned earlier, we did a lot of work in multi-stakeholder engagement, and we also made sure that other standards were included in the guidance that we provided, so that we don't duplicate any work that other standards are doing. We make it easier for companies to follow this decarbonization pathway and go above and beyond in investing in carbon credit solutions. So some of the standards that are included are, as I mentioned before, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, SBTi, CDP, and ICVCM. And in terms of multi-stakeholder engagement, we really collaborated consulting with market experts, really the people that are involved in the voluntary carbon market, that either develop projects or that are involved in the market as consultants and experts in the different solutions that we have available. We also spoke with corporates, governments, regulators, and academics. The first provisional claims code was published in June 2022, and we had more than 130 responses to the public consultation, and about 70 companies took part in the first road test that we did with a provisional code. And after that, throughout 2023, leading up to the release of the claims code last year, we engaged with about 150 total stakeholders across private and public and nonprofit sectors, as I mentioned. We have about 70 experts in our stakeholder forum, 20 members in our expert advisory group, and about 55 representatives from the country contact group. So we always engage with governments as well to make sure that these influence regulation as well. And finally, we tested and had 11 companies that took part in our early adopters program, as this year we are trying to onboard more and more companies making a claim. And about a month ago, we were able to announce the first company that made a carbon integrity claim, which is Bain & Company. If we go on to the next slide. So as I said, companies can now make a carbon integrity claim and get recognized for accelerating global net zero. So we really want to give this opportunity for companies to be climate leaders and invest with companies in nature climate solutions. There is a great value for business to engage in high integrity voluntary carbon market and make a carbon integrity claim. We know that carbon credits and nature climate solutions can really play a key role in the net zero transition and can help demonstrate climate leadership. Also, as Yannicka mentioned earlier, with the climate crisis, we see disruptions in supply chains. And so supporting high integrity projects and nature climate solutions can really help build that resilience in value chains. And so, also at the same time, show the responsibility on climate action, which is increasingly important for companies, also for competitiveness, to be able to attract, retain, and also gain recognition from investors, from clients, from employees. We see that more and more employees also are looking to work for a sustainable company, a company that is responsible and takes climate action. That was also one of the key messages that we heard from Bain & Company while making a claim. They really wanted to demonstrate climate leadership, but they understood that it was also important clearly for their clients to be able to demonstrate that they are taking responsibility, but also for their employees that really care about what the company is doing. And then finally, but really, really important, we know that the use of carbon credits is really important for reputational and legal risk mitigation. So it needs to be done with integrity, it needs to be done with investing in high quality solutions. And we know we have been seeing a rising tide of climate litigation that focused on those claims that were unsubstantiated. So what we want to do with the carbon integrity claim is to offer a solid, robust opportunity for companies to invest with confidence in the voluntary carbon market and the nature climate solution projects. I have a couple of slides of support that we are receiving from standard setters and regulators globally. We can skip through quickly those, but it was just to mention that since the release of the claims code in June 2023 and the additional guidance at the end of November, VCMI's work has also received a significant support and endorsement from companies, governments, NGOs, climate leaders and other market participants, which we very much welcome, of course. So in the few more minutes that I have, I also wanted to touch on who is the claims code of practice for and why this is important. So clearly our core audience are companies that are seeking to make credible and voluntary use of carbon credits and receive a validation in the form of VCMI claim, something that can stand against accusations of greenwashing or against any sort of reputational risk or accusation. But it can also be valuable for other stakeholders like individuals or businesses that want to understand who they are buying from and how good their climate action is. It can also be used by investors and other stakeholders that want to evaluate the credibility of a company's climate ambition and its actions. And finally, we are working a lot with governments, as I mentioned, and their regulatory agencies to make sure that the VCMI claims code of practice is part of the upcoming regulation and that the high integrity in the market follows the rules that VCMI has been working on. Finally, a quick overview of the carbon integrity claims. As mentioned, the claims recognize the commitment to go above and beyond the science-aligned emissions cuts and really to accelerate global net zero. We have established clear guidelines to make credible claims, and we have also published a reporting, a monitoring, reporting, and assurance framework. Because it's really important that all of these follows all key requirements that can be also third-party assured. And then we also undertook extensive research and consultation with the design to make sure that we provide a mark and a stamp for companies to use, which is the carbon integrity mark that you see here. And for the three different claims that companies can make. We don't have much time to go into the details today, but the three different claims reflect the level of investment that a company is making in carbon credits in relation to their remaining emissions after they went through their decarbonization investments. And so there are 4 key steps in the claims code of practice, and this is my last slide, but I wanted to, at a very high level, just reiterate the guidance which follows best practice in terms of climate action. So the company has to comply first with a set of foundational criteria which demonstrate good corporate governance on climate. prioritizing decarbonization first, and then the company will select a VCMI claim to make to demonstrate progress towards their near-term emissions reductions targets, and then select a claim among the three options that we showed earlier, the silver, gold, and platinum, and purchase and retire high-quality carbon credits following ICVCM's core carbon principles. And at the end, to substantiate the claim, it is essential that companies transparently report the information relating to the foundational criteria in the first step and the claim-specific requirements. This is an important step, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that all the claims are credible and that provide that confidence for companies to invest in. I think I might have one final slide just to say thank you so much to everyone. And if you are interested in the work that VCMI is doing, you can also visit our website. We will be able to share more information, but the Claims Code of Practice is on our website. And we are also running a Carbon Integrity 101 webinar series to go through each of these steps that I mentioned much more in detail and provide all the information that companies might be interested in learning on to comply and make a VCMI carbon integrity claim. So you can find out more here by signing up to our newsletter or go to the page on how to make a claim. So thank you so much again for the opportunity of sharing the work that VCMI is doing. And I look forward to the questions at the end.
No, thank you so much, Rafaela. You and Yanika make such a great team. And I just want to share more about Rafaela's experience in working with the team in WBCSD. So Rafaela has over a decade of experience in business growth strategies and new product development and sustainability insights. She leads stakeholder engagement at the voluntary Carbon Market Integrity Initiative, or BCMI, as she discussed, and also multi-stakeholder platform enabling high-integrity voluntary carbon markets, or VCMs, through the guidance it develops for market participants. So at VCMI, Rafaela actively consults with corporate sustainability, finance, and climate experts from around the world to strengthen and implement VCMI's Claims Code of Practice. The Claims Code brings confidence and credibility to the use of carbon credits, accelerating corporate engagement with VCMs as part of net zero pathways. So following the release of the additional guidance in November, companies can make carbon integrity claims and be recognized for exceptional climate leadership, accelerating global net zero above and beyond science-aligned emission cuts. So thank you so much, Jenica and Rafaela, for that presentation. We will be sharing a copy of your presentation later on with our BSD members. And we understand that it's a little early over there in your part of the world, but thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and time with us today. And so moving on to our next speaker. So our last panel speaker is representing the Bacolod City Government. Engineer Edmond Maki Maceda is a sustainability professional with over 30 years of experience in corporate ESG strategy, academic program development, and sustainability consulting. He graduated from Stanford University in 1992 with a master's degree in environmental engineering after obtaining his bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the University of the Philippines in 1989. Engineer Macedo's long career includes key roles as sustainability consultant for the DLSU Animal Labs Foundation, sustainability technical expert for the Climate Change Commission, sustainability director for Enduron Colleges, sustainability consultant to the chairman of Megaworld Corporation, sustainability officer of Ayala Land, vice president for environmental affairs of the Phil Estate Group, vice president for Director for Environmental Consulting Services of SGV & Co. and professional engineer with Montgomery Watson Consulting Engineers in California. He has hosted, facilitated, and spoken at numerous sustainability summits. He has, excuse me. sustainability summits, green conferences, and corporate trainings and related events. Engineer Macedo currently serves as a special advisor of the City of Bacolod in the areas of waste management and environmental protection. So let us all welcome Engineer Edmond Maki Macedo.
Thank you so much, Felicia, and a pleasant afternoon to everyone. I'm glad to be here, even though I'm not a subject matter expert on natural climate solutions. I guess I'm an old veteran in and out of the industry for many years, and I've heard and seen things that are good examples of natural climate solutions initiated by the private sector here in our country. I'm also here to learn. It was a good presentation from Yannicka, the overview of what it's all about and how companies can get involved. I was glad to hear Rafi's talk and her example of Bain and Company. I was especially proud to hear that because Rafi, my older brother Manny, is the CEO of Bain and Company. Special thanks to my former student Macy, who's now interning with BSD. She's the one who actually reached out and asked me to speak. It's been a while since I gave a talk. I've been busy with waste management in Bacolod, but I'm happy to be here and share with you some insights and, as I said, things I've heard and seen related to this space. And for that, I will share in lieu of slides, I will share content that I found online as I quickly did an initial scan, a partial scan of nature-based solutions. So let me start with this picture here. It's a tree planting activity at Nuvali in Santa Rosa, Laguna from the year 2008. And I had the privilege of being part of this activity by Ayala Land. Nuvali is one of their big in terms of land area, big development projects. So I guess the initial thought that came to my mind is when you talk about natural climate solutions, the straightforward example is tree planting, reforestation. So let's take a look at what some of the biggest companies in the Philippines are doing when it comes to reforestation. And I'd like to begin with what I feel or have seen would be the biggest in terms of private sector-led reforestation. This is by none other than Energy Development Corporation. I think they're a registered attendee to today's talk. Energy Development Corporation has planted so many trees and restored so many forests, and they're contributing to all these sustainable development goals that we touched on earlier. Let's take a minute just to
BNE identifies and propagates Philippine endemic tree species all over the archipelago, working with multi-sectoral groups in its communities of operation. Thanks to BNE, EDC is the only Philippine company that successfully absorbs more environmental carbon than it emits. To date, more than 6 million trees have been planted across almost 10,000 hectares of degraded and open forests in watersheds and protected areas in the Philippines. Truly, BNE, as EDC's legacy greening program, has proven to be a genuinely impactful CSR endeavor, underscoring the power of collaborative communication and action in mitigating climate change.
All right, so we'll close that tab and close this tab and close that tab. Let's get back to Ayala. That tree planting in the valley from 16 years ago evolved into an actual carbon forest program. You know, as a big developer, Ayala Land has a huge land map, more than 5,000 hectares from the time that when I was there in 2008. And this gives you the scale with which to do impact now on reforestation. So This is tied into their zero carbon, their carbon neutrality goals. All of these, again, are available online. This is a news article about the carbon forest strategy of Ayala. Here in their website, 7,400 hectares of forests and mangrove ecosystems monitored and protected, etc., etc. So the Ayala Group, not just Ayala Land, but the group as a whole, has been doing big things in this space. And the sister company, Globe, is also an award winner for their G-Forest feature on Gcash. I'm sure many of us have seen this when you log into your Gcash. There's a G-Forest function where you can donate, and that donation will go a long way in planting more trees. So with more than 16.2 million members, they who have virtually planted 3.8 million trees. They got this award just earlier this year. That's Gcash, G-Forest. How does it work? I won't go into the details, but just this shows you what the Ayala group of companies are doing. San Miguel Corporation, not to be left behind, also has its own reforestation efforts. This one in Bulacan, 3.8 million trees planted since 2019. I saw on the participant chat that the Aboitiz people are here. We also have to tip our hats off to them for their reforestation initiative, which is also in the millions of trees and counting. They targeted 9 million trees by the end of 2020, and they surpassed it, planting 11.73 million. So it's not just forest, but the Aboitiz Foundation, the Aboitiz Group, is also a leader in mangrove protection. So kudos to them. Aboitiz also has gone beyond their traditional bailiwicks of the Visayas provinces to do reforestation efforts in Luzon, in this case in Nueva Vizcaya, by SN Aboitiz Power. So it's one of the subsidiaries of the Aboitiz Group. Congratulations. I also saw, this was a last-minute addition to my tabs here. I saw some PNB participants in the group. So this was a tree planting that they did. Total of 285 volunteers planted 1,425 trees. So let me stop sharing my screen for a minute. Some insights. Big corporations have the financial muscle to do large-scale reforestation and tree planting. So I suppose most of the membership of the BSD are these big corporations with big foundations. It all starts as a CSR effort. And then with some of these corporations, it becomes part of the value chain. There was a slide earlier in Yanica's presentation where she talked about beyond the value chain. But my insight there is in the Philippine private sector, when you talk about making the business case for sustainability, most CEOs have said in the past, it has to be within the value chain so it can go beyond the CSR foundation budget. So in the case of EDC, it makes sense for them to go into large-scale reforestation because they maintain a big geothermal plant in South Luzon. So maintaining the watershed that continues to supply the resources for this geothermal power is within their value chain. So just wanted to make that example. Let me go to the next half of my presentation. Let me share my screen again. And these are some unique examples I've seen going beyond reforestation. What can Philippine business do? Well, the first idea that came to my mind was engineered bamboo, which is already a strong industry. I highlighted here a statement by Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez. Currently, the Philippines is the 5th largest bamboo exporter in the world, With smart planning and malasakit, especially for our bamboo planters, the Philippine bamboo industry could be a behemoth a few years down the road. So for me, bamboo, engineered bamboo, and the many uses in construction is a good example of not unique to the Philippines, but a space where the Philippines has a good chance to be a leader in it in this type of natural climate solution, because the carbon is stored in the bamboo, and then when it's used in your building materials, then you store them for a long time. Here's another article that shows you how bamboo can be used. This is a low cost, a bamboo house. So for developers who also have a legal requirement to do low cost housing, again, you can see the impact that you can get with using bamboo. Let's switch the tab off. A non-profit group named Base Bahay has this project also in and they're actually working hard to do the R&D needed so that bamboo construction materials can be included in the building code of the country. Let me show you just a minute of this video where this bamboo plantation owner from Bula, Camarines Sur, talks about this industry.
Is now going into, kasi ang use ng bamboo ngayon sa West is only aesthetic use.
Okay.
Magandang wall,
Wall.
magandang deck, magandang furniture, magandang.
Mm.
Pero over the past, again, 10 years, 15 years, they're now looking at bamboo as a structural load-bearing material
Like buildings.
for buildings. So, isinasama na yan ngayon sa building code
Okay.
ng Western countries. In fact, there's one US company.
Okay, so you see where the bamboo industry is headed. Maybe as an idea, if you have a new office or a new branch in your company that you're planning, ask your designers to specify more bamboo materials in the construction, whether structural or for finishing. This way you can be part of the bamboo solution for climate change. Now, for my last few tabs here, I wanted to share just some climate solutions related to my field, which is waste management. And this example I'd like to give is the first biggest industrial scale biogas power facility in the country. It's in South Cotabato, a joint project between Metro Pacific Investments Corporation and Dole Philippines, and also with Itochu, a Japanese company. You see, they process close to 700 kilos of pineapple waste from the canning plants into biogas to produce almost 6 megawatts of clean energy, fuel to replace the diesel requirement in the boilers, and approximately 50,000 tons CO2 equivalent per year are removed. And for this, they got a grant from the government of Japan. So these things are happening now in our country. I hope to see more of this. Another area in waste management, something that I'm currently taking a look at is the use of constructed wetlands. You see, instead of usual practice for sewage treatment is a big box that uses a lot of energy to blow air through the system and to help degrade the contaminants. But you replace that box with living plants, then it becomes a natural climate solution. And it's being used by the city of Bayawan in Negros Oriental, the first one to do it. DOST has been doing a lot of it lately in Davao. And then lastly, something that I've personally ventured in lately is black soldier fly farming to transform organic bio-waste into useful materials to make animal feeds and organic fertilizer. Just a quick reel, less than a minute.
This video deals with urban organic municipal waste from households, commercial activities, and institutions. It describes the fairly novel approach of biowaste conversion by insect larvae, using the example of the black soldier fly BSV, Hermetia lucens, an approach that has obtained much attention in the past decade. Its popularity links to the promising opportunities of using the harvested BSV larvae as a source of protein for animal feed, thus providing a valuable alternative to conventional feed. Enterprises and small entrepreneurs are already investing significant amounts of money into this technology and are interested in keeping a competitive edge. This video deal.
All right, that completes all of the tabs that I was able to pull up for you today. Limited time, but again, it was just an initial partial scan from an old timer on what I've seen and heard as far as natural climate solutions are concerned here in the private sector in the country. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Engineer Maki. So with that, let's move on to the panel discussion, a portion of the webinar. And with everyone open here, with all the speakers on the cameras, there we go. Thank you. And Macy, could you kindly pin us the presentation? And so, okay, so and also everyone, if you have any questions for our speakers, you can start preparing them, start conceptualizing them, and then please send them below in the Zoom chat, and then we will address them during the open forum. Okay, so for our friends over at WPCSD and Natural Climate Solution Alliance and VCMI, I wanted to ask, what are your suggestions or recommendations for companies with minimal to no knowledge about nature-based solutions on what to do or what are their initial steps that they need to take to achieve sustainability in their organizations?
I'd be happy to start that with that question if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I briefly mentioned it in my presentation, but one of the tools that WBCSD has recently launched is the NCS Procurement Hub. And the name is a little bit misleading because it sounds like this is a place where you go to procure credits. So it's not the case. It's more of a knowledge hub community for businesses who are interested in natural climate solutions and want to learn more. It's only for businesses, so it's a safe, secure space where, you know, to go and raise awareness and learn and build your confidence and build your competence in natural climate solutions. And it's arranged logically in that there's, you know, a beginners section for understanding what are the foundational principles that need to be in place before even considering purchasing natural climate solution credits. You know, like Rafi mentioned around the claims code of practice, they're compliant with the foundational principles that VCMI have put out. So the ecosystem is coherent, and you know that the information that comes from the procurement hub is from experts. It's not just me, it's from the Natural Climate Solutions Alliance and many others within WBCSD. Whereas it's supported by a whole task force of experts in the field of NCS and the voluntary carbon market. And it's not just a place for learning, it's not just a place for information, it's also got this community element. So we're trying to build this safe space for businesses to ask questions, to, you know, have a comprehensive source of information, because this is it's an area that changes very, very quickly and very dramatically, and it's impossible for one business to keep up to date on everything that is going on with the voluntary carbon market. So this hub is really a centralized, comprehensive source of information as it regards to NCS. It also provides examples of what high quality NCS carbon projects look like, and helps businesses to build the business case to their CEO or their executive team about why they should buy carbon credits, and what are the key drivers for businesses, as Engineer Mackey said, both within and out with your value chain, in order to make that business case strong. That naturally then also provides a bit of a risk management tool for businesses, because you have this sort of expert guidance, you have exclusive resources, you have access to news, to events, to projects, and best of all, of course, it's completely free and there's no commitment required from any business. So you just have to request to join. The only reason why we have this request to join step is because we want to make sure it's only for businesses, suitable businesses, and then that's all there is to it. So I'll put a link in the chat in case anyone on this call is interested in learning more. Thank you.
Thank you. So from what you said, I think it is like a support group for businesses to take that first step to really jumpstart their sustainability initiatives and get into the getting the carbon credits and such.
Exactly.
Thank you, Yanika and Rafaela. And then I also want to give this question to Engineer Mappy. And so what are your suggestions or recommendations for companies or conglomerates or maybe companies that are on their way to becoming conglomerates that don't have any initiatives yet in terms of sustainability, but want to take that first step for here in the Philippine context? What would you say?
The fast answer is to partner. For example, EDC, aside the EDC has its ongoing reforestation initiative, but they also a couple of years ago formed the Net Zero Carbon Alliance for the private sector, where you can share your advocacies, your strategies towards going net zero, and reforestation is a big part of that. That could be a future collaboration between your company and the Net Zero Carbon Alliance. See where you fit in there. But you got to do it. The business case for a tree planting project or reforestation these days is much easier to present to top management than it was 10-15 years ago. So if you're not there, you'll just be left behind. You've seen the examples we saw earlier. Most of the top corporations already have some program in it, and if you're considering yourself to be a top corporation or a blooming conglomerate, then by now you should have a sustainability framework, an ESG governance framework, and part of the E would be doing what you can to help the environment, plant more trees, etc. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's just so much easier these days to convince a CEO to do this type of project than it was 10-15 years ago.
Thank you so much, Engineer Maki. Excuse me. So I'd also like to call on my manager, Ms. Ray Loyola, if she would like to ask any questions or would like to know anything else from our panel of speakers. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Phil. For Rafi, I guess if you would like to add anything else, I mean, since we're working in the same system, right? We are a nonprofit organization, and I think I would like to hear from you. How did you do that on your end? How did you start conducting this encouragement to the business in your place or starting in your continent, in your region, something that we can apply here in the Philippines. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, well, as part of my job is really working on stakeholder engagement. I think what's been absolutely important for us and set the basis for all the guidance that we are working on is to work and collaborate with other organizations, other standard setters, and really hear from corporates, but as I mentioned before, not only civil society, governments, what are the needs? How can we help to solve the doubts, the issues that are there, provide more clarity? And so we really started with this broad stakeholder engagement that is also continuing, and all the work that we do is based on stakeholder engagement. And part of that stakeholder engagement is really to work with companies. So it's great when a company can or is willing to be involved in the conversation. So participate, as also Engineer Masida mentioned, be there, be willing to be part of associations or networks that are supporting your pathway to decarbonization, and do what you can. There are many resources out there. Definitely the NCS hub that Jenica mentioned. Also on our side at VCMI, you can find a lot of information on our website, but take part in our webinars, pose questions, be sure that to be involved in conversations, events like this one, which is great to raise awareness and make sure that there is more knowledge sharing about everything that is available to companies. And raise your hand if you want to participate, to take part and provide feedback and input to organizations such as VCMI or other standard setters, because we are really working to create this end-to-end framework that I mentioned, where things are clear for companies, cohesive, where we do provide a pathway, and we try to reduce as much as possible the burden on companies. So for example, to make a carbon integrity claim, if a company is already working with CDP or SBTI, all the information that we require are things that a company is already doing with these other organizations. We are not asking to duplicate any of the work. So I think it's really important to get started, to find information through the alliance that you might have nationally, or a global alliance that you want to follow, like the Net Zero Alliance, for example, and start participating. And then for anything related to the VCM, of course, we are here with WBCSD, always happy to help and be involved.
Thank you very much, Rafi. For our members who are still here, we understand that you're really in a very tight schedule, and some of you are still in the offices. If you would like to share more about your initiatives, you may raise your hand. We would love to hear from you, because I guess some of you were featured earlier in the presentation of Engineer Mackie. So if you would like to broaden, explain further your journey, and even to some of the members who were not, who are still here, they have their own initiatives and programs as well. Feel free to share with us in this discussion. So the open forum is now open. This is just for the interest of time. So I guess, Sir RV, you have something to share with us. Yes, sir.
Hi, I just have a question for Rafi. I think just recently, the SBTI announced that it was willing to consider accepting carbon offsets as a way for companies to include it in its I guess in its abatement programs. I think originally the SBTI does not include or does not allow offsets to be included in a company's emissions abatements efforts. No, but I think recently they announced that they will be studying it and considering it for acceptance, and they will be releasing a analysis by June of this year. Do you think that would help narrow the funding gap for the what do you call that, almost 6 trillion funding gap that was displayed by Jenica earlier, because companies will now be more confident about buying offsets if the SBTI would allow it.
Thank you very much. That's really a great question. Yes, we published a statement right after the announcement from SBTI welcoming their statement as a signal to companies that they can and should be engaging with carbon markets. We do think it's a positive signal, because from a VCMI standpoint, we think that action is better than inaction. So we really need companies to take a responsibility for their emissions year on year. And that's why, from a VCMI standpoint, I can talk about, for sure, I don't know more about what SBTI actually will come up with in July, but definitely from the announcement, we did welcome their signal. We did run a large, extensive stakeholder feedback process last year before releasing a beta version of a Scope 3 flexibility claim. I didn't talk about that today because it starts to get a bit into the details, but that's exactly what the Scope 3 flexibility claim we are working on, and we're planning to publish in Q3 of this year. It really focuses on enabling companies that are facing challenges with their Scope 3 emissions targets at the moment to still take action rather than inaction. So understanding that there are challenges that companies are facing in meeting these targets, how can we still incentivize action rather than just wait and do nothing. Yeah, I think that would be really important. And from a VCMI standpoint, we are ready to work with SBTI. We have been collaborating, as I mentioned earlier, so we really want to ensure that their work delivers clarity for businesses, and so we are always open to collaborate as much as we can to provide that clarity and enhance more action.
Thank you.
All right. So can I see, or can I just check if there are any other questions do we have here from our participants? Any sharings? I've seen that some of you guys already left, and I actually, I will try our best to wrap up. There will be summary, and we will be sharing, as mentioned, the presentations, right? So, all right. I haven't seen any questions right now. Phil?
Ray, can I pose a question?
Yes, sure. Yes, engineer.
Yeah, just wanted to check with my co-panelists and anyone in the audience to verify this. There's this piece of information in my head that a couple of years ago, talking to some of these big companies who are doing this reforestation projects, I heard that they had a problem with the high cost of certification of these carbon credits that they could get out of their reforestation projects. If I remember correctly, the number I heard was $100,000 being charged by one company to certify your forest carbon credits. I don't know if that's in the ballpark. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and if you can share some insights on this issue.
I'm not 100% sure, actually. I know that there is a cost associated with verification, but I don't know about the exact figures. Rafi, you might, I mean, we focus more exclusively on the demand side, not so much the supply side. So that's why I don't know about that information off the top of my head, but we can find out and let you know.
Yeah, I'm afraid I cannot provide additional information either, but for sure, carbon programs, so the certifiers have to go through a couple of steps, if I'm not wrong, to determine the high quality of the credits before issuing the carbon credits. And so there are some costs involved with the work that verifiers are doing, and then the certification in itself. But as well, yes, working on the demand side, I'm not that involved in that phase of the work.
Thank you for the insight. Can I rephrase the question in a way? Have you heard of any Philippine companies who have secured the carbon credits for their reforestation initiatives and traded it in the market? Yeah.
Not
So
Philippines, no.
yeah, I guess I'm bringing up this point to show that there is some hurdles. So, you know, companies go out of their way and plant so many trees, but to make the jump from the planting to the carbon credit, you know, so that they can recover some value and some returns on their investment, there seems to be some hurdles there. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And that is definitely something that businesses can work together with buyers to, you know, to try and make some sort of an easier financial arrangement prior to the purchase of credits. So there's different, you know, models, I guess, and some businesses are more interested in investing early into projects in which they can, you know, understand more fully how the project is developed. There are you know, this is one option for buyers. There's also, you know, buying credits that are already developed, which, as you said, there may or may not be local credits from Philippines. But that is an option that corporate buyers can consider if they are interested in, you know, supporting their local environment, or if there's, you know, a more specific concern that they have that they would like to see resolved, then there are alternative options than just buying credits on the spot market.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, thank you, everyone. So let's take this one last question from one of our participants. So Kosh Villar wants to ask, which markets are the credits traded and how mature is this market? I'm guessing that's aimed towards Yenica and Rafi.
Yeah, so the voluntary carbon market is the name of the market where carbon credits are traded. It's quite mature. It's, you know, getting more mature as these integrity measures are being put in place. But in 2023, for example, there were 174 million tons of credits traded on the voluntary carbon market. So it's quite significant and quite a mature market. Rafi, I don't know if you want to add anything about that.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of investments, if we think about the market in itself at the moment, in terms of value, I think it was around $2 billion last year. And what I was talking about earlier in terms of the many estimates that many companies like consulting firms have made, the one I mentioned is from McKinsey, for example, that we could unlock the potential of the market to scale up to 50 billion. It's quite of a big difference from what we have today and where we are today. That's why we are really working hard on setting this integrity framework with other organizations so that we can provide that confidence to buyers that the market is ready, that you can invest in the market, and also give the opportunity from the other side, the supply side and the project developers, that there will be a market for the projects they are developing and the credits that they will be issuing. So I think there's a great potential to scale the market, and more we are seeing initiatives such as VCMI coming together to provide that confidence, to build the trust in the market, and hoping that we can really go from the 2 billion market to the 50 million markets, hopefully in a few years, as there is so much need for climate finance.
Okay, thank you so much, Yanika and Rafi. And so since we're running out of time, let's wrap up this webinar, very eventful webinar. And so to wrap up BSD's membership webinar, I want to give the floor to our business development and membership manager, Ms. Raylani Yola, for our closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil, and thank you to our panelists for joining us this afternoon and for your time and presence today, and of course to our participants as well. So again, this was a very incredible discussion, and I believe we do not have enough time to discuss further. This is a very actually intriguing discussion and topic, so much that the Philippine sector or the Philippine business sector is not yet really ready. There's so much to learn as what we have learned from here. No, there's a lot of collaboration that must be forged in between sectors and various organizations. So now let me just, I have actually a whole speech prepared, not really very long, but I wanted also to make this shorter. So let me just share something that I read from the World Economic Forum about NCS, or the Natural Climate Solutions. Now, the voluntary carbon market makes it possible for communities and projects in some of the most endangered forests to access capital directly and channel funds where they are most needed. In this way, carbon credit projects are not just another abstract financial instrument, but a vital conservation and development tool. Businesses increasingly implementing science-based carbon reduction targets may need to purchase credits to reach net zero targets. By implementing rapid decarbonization actions alongside the acquisition of high-quality NCS credits, businesses can contribute to a nature-positive and more equitable future. So it is also wrapped up that the key ingredient for the success of these projects is trust. So because it's essential to build the foundation of social capital and community ownership of the project. And I am proud to say that it's a good thing that some of the projects now that is already ongoing, and most of those are from the big companies, are already at least somehow acknowledged, right? It's becoming a benchmark to the rest of the business community. And it's a good thing that there is continuous awareness and campaign towards these types of initiatives and approach. And then right now, we're now focusing on the carbon credits, something that also it's very good to learn, right? It's a very good thing to start knowing that. And so to end this, in observance of Earth Month, we are encouraging everyone in this room to consider taking actions today. So bring something to your offices after this webinar. Maybe next week, include a topic or a suggestion to your next strategy plan, your CSR development project, or simply a research work, a proposal to pitch to your management committee. BSD will be here to support, assist, and be your collaborator throughout the process. We will connect you with the right people and make our recommendations during the consultation. Again, thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Rain.
Thank you very much.
And so before we end this eventful day, we'd like an opportunity to take a virtual class photo. So I'd like to ask everyone to please open your cameras so that we can take a photo. Macy kindly take a photo. And if you're not willing to open your camera, could you at least throw us a little heart react to show that you are here with us? Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank
Yay.
you.
Thank you so much. And also one last reminder that we will be sending the feedback form. You can kindly flash it on the screen, or if not, we will be sending, yeah, there we go. Please answer the evaluation form if you want to receive a copy of the presentation materials, and also including your certificate of participation. We encourage everyone to answer the feedback form available, the link there in the Zoom chat, or if not, on the QR code on the screen. So we hope You could help us improve our future webinars, and your feedback is greatly appreciated. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next events. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy weekend.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
Thank
rest of your
you.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you.